This video is part of a series designed to give you the lowdown on applying to Oxford University. Today we'll be focusing on the UCAS application with a particular look at the personal statement. I'm Lizzie. I was a student at St Edmund Hall, which is part of the University of Oxford. I graduated from a geography degree in 2019. I'm now working as one of the Access and Outreach Officers at St Edmund Hall. Applications to UK universities are made through a service called UCAS. You'll go onto their website and fill out the application form, which they will then send on to the universities that you've chosen to apply to. On that form, you'll include some of your personal details, the 5 universities you've chosen to apply for, your grades, that's both your obtained grades and your predicted grades, any employment history, which could include any relevant work experience, but don't worry if you've not got any, it's not a requirement for any of our courses here at Oxford. There'll be room for some referee details, so that's usually a teacher at your school who adds a bit more context to your application. And finally, there's the subject of this video, that personal statement. Once that's finished, it'll be about 4,000 characters, which is a typed side of A4. As we covered in the application outline video, there are a few key things that we're looking for from an applicant to courses here at Oxford. Primarily, we're after academic ability and potential and enthusiasm for your subject. Equally, we'd like to see independent thought, an inquiring mind and a commitment to study. Your personal statement is a chance to show some of those qualities, not necessarily all of them, but it's a great place to start. When writing your personal statement as part of an application to Oxford, it's really important to remember that we like the bulk of it to be academic content. About 80% of it should be to do with your academic activities and interests, and about 20% to do with your extracurricular activities. The reason that that is such a small proportion is because here at Oxford we will not make offers to one candidate over another based on their extracurricular activities. We understand that extracurricular activities, though whilst really important and they can be great for developing self-confidence and other sorts of skills, they often reflect the opportunities you've had. Equally, just because you could afford piano lessons and you've got grade 8 piano, would that actually make you a better chemistry student or a better history student? So don't be tempted to fall into the trap of listing off those great extracurriculars you've got. Please do keep that focus on academic content. So what can that academic content actually be? What do we mean by academic content? Well, it's anything connected to your subject that goes beyond the classroom. We call it supercurricular, being beyond the curriculum. So for example, if you are interested in applying for history and you've been studying the tutors at school, you might want to take some of those elements that you learned about at school further in your own time. So you could read around that bit of subject to read beyond what would be on an exam syllabus. But it doesn't just have to be reading books. You could take a look at magazine article series, you could listen to podcasts. You can look up exhibitions in person if you're lucky enough to have them to hand, or you could see what's online. You can also watch documentaries, watch TED Talks. You could even join a society. For instance, the Wildlife Trust run loads of different talks and workshops that might appeal to geographers or biologists. The Philip Larkin Society is a great hub of resources that could interest English students, including poetry reviews and recommended reading. In fact, lots of different books, authors or even poets have these kinds of societies that you can go and explore. If you're interested in a subject like law, you might want to check out Law Ball. They have lots of different links to all sorts of areas of law that you might not even have heard of before. Those are just some starting points. They're obviously not universal recommendations, but there'll be links in the video description to our resources megadoc, and you can also check out the recommended reading on application pages. It's important though that you go beyond what's just listed there. These things should be personal to your interests. Equally, it's not about the flashiness of what you've done. It's not about going, I went to Paris and looked around the Louvre and now I'm ready for history of art. That's not what you need to do. It's about what you get from the experience. So engaging with the resource is a really good start, but you need to do a little bit more than that to show us that interest and potential that we're looking for. To do that, you could go on if we're being a bit twee, a learning journey. So to explain what that is, I'll give you an example from my own personal statement. So back when I was applying for geography, I was reading National Geographic. Now that's pretty standard practice, it's kind of the first thing on most people's reading lists, so I go down to my school library and look at that. They had a series called The Future of Food, which I found particularly interesting. So having read that, my eye was caught by something called aquaculture. I'd not really heard of it before, but they were touting it as something that could be really important in solving a global food problem. So I went and looked into that. I watched a video about deep sea salmon farming, which was not quite where I expected to go, but it was interesting. Trying to follow it up, I started looking around, Googling around on the internet, and I actually found that there was a conference happening at the university down my road. So I went along to the University of Worcester on their food and farming conference. Now, it was a free event, which was great, but I'll be honest, some of the talks went right over my head, like soil science, a bit beyond my level. But there were some things that I really enjoyed. And it came up at interview and I was able to discuss it with the tutors, who seemed impressed that I'd done that multi-step journey. And that's what it's about. Obviously, that's a very geography-heavy example, and it's not the route I took that you should be looking to copy, but that inspiration of doing several different things. You're taking an interest, or you're taking something you're curious about, and you've gone a bit further with it. That's what you could be trying to do on a learning journey. Engaging with several different resources on that sort of multi-step journey through a topic isn't the only way to show that you've got that interest that we're looking for. You could also choose a single resource and really get stuck into it. So you could introduce something that you're interested in, something that's really caught your curiosity in your subject. You could then build on that with a concrete example of how you have explored that interest. You could then dive in a little bit and show what you got from it. So it could be a few sentences doing a little bit of analysis, giving that bit more detail. A couple of sentences should be fine, because remember, you haven't got that much space to play with. But even just a few lines should show us that you've got that interest that we're looking for, and it may even be a chance for you to demonstrate some of the skills that could be useful on your course. When you're doing your supercurricular exploration, we're not expecting you to be reading PhD theses or anything really incomprehensible. What you do should be stuff that you are genuinely interested in, that you could happily discuss at interview should it come up. You might take a school topic as a starting point, as that should be accessible to you, and then you could work from there and turn it into something a little bit different. So now you know that supercurricular exploration, that academic content, is the aim of the game. How do you actually go about writing a personal statement? Well, the first thing is obviously the first line. It's really difficult to do a first line that doesn't seem to be cheesy, and what if you're trying to get attention, all this kind of thing. But your application is not going to be judged on just the first couple of lines of your personal statement. We look at so many other things and we will read the whole thing. We are not bothered about you trying to stand out or anything like that right at the very beginning. So don't agonise over it too much. You can even just bung something down and come back to it later if you're finding it a challenge. Other important points include the importance of planning carefully. You only have 4,000 characters to work with, and that is actually not that much. So what's really helpful to do is to bullet point out all the things you might like to include, prioritise those, and then try and stick to that plan. If you keep adding things in, you're going to end up going way over the character limit. Because quality is more important than quantity. We want to see some developed examples, some things that you can link together or do that deeper dive that we talked about earlier. Development is definitely better than just trying to list things to fit them in. I'll finish with a final few tips. When you're trying to choose those supercurricular activities, that academic content that you might want to include, keep it recent if you can. Those examples are likely to be easier to discuss for you and are probably going to be the most impressive ones since you've done them most recently. It's also so important to proofread your personal statement properly. Make sure all the grammar is correct and all the spelling, especially if you're applying for an essay subject. You also need to make sure that you keep your personal statement original. A lot of people might want to look at other examples or go online and try and find some to get a bit of inspiration, but make sure it is just inspiration if you decide to do that. UCAS have plagiarism checking software, and if it flags up that you've copied parts of your personal statement from somewhere else, it's not going to look great for you. It's also fine to do a few different drafts of your personal statement. It can be quite difficult to write, and it probably will take a few goes. But when you're doing that, make sure you stay true to your interests and the activities you've genuinely done. It's fine to take advice from different people, but make sure you bear in mind the tips from this video in order to give yourself the best chance of success. Writing a good personal statement definitely gets your application off to a great start, but please don't forget that there are several other stages to our application process. Things like admissions tests, any work you might need to submit, and even an interview should you be offered one, are just as important. So don't worry too much about the personal statement so that you forget to do those other things that you really do need to do. I hope this video has been helpful for you, and thank you very much for watching. It was made by us here at St Edmund Hall, which is one of the colleges of the University of Oxford. If you'd like to find out more about personal statements, us as a college, or the application process as a whole, please check out the links in the video description.